My kids save me. They are saving me every day. Every day I see something new. They're teaching me to be a dad, a better dad. Not a better dad than my dad. This is what I'm saying. Myself, a better dad. And they're opening doors that I didn't know how to deal with. It's very, sometimes when you I can see sometimes when they look at me how much they love me and how much they like, oh, dad. But if they only knew, actually, I look at them the same way. Thanks for being here because it would have been tough. Because as an athlete, as long as you stay within that frame, you can feed whatever you need to feed to satisfy that little thing that you have, your ego, your avoiding your problems. Because you prefer to be the athlete than the human being. Because then the athlete, it's easier. You know what to do. Well, I knew what to do. Even if it was painful, whatever, I knew what to do. This is why when you go there, you're like, oh no. So it's easy for a little while when you have your career. But I think you remember that as an athlete, and I say it and I will maintain it. You die when you stop. The athlete, a competitor, dies. I can never play again in the Prem. I can never play for France anymore. I don't care what people say. You can play football. None of that level. Not competing the way I used to compete. And that part of me died. So people don't teach you to die. So now you are going to face all your problems. Because you could put them on the side because you're playing games. Because you have other things that will cover that. But once everything stops, we're not used to be at home. We're not used to deal with a normal life. Since I'm 13, I never had a normal life. Understand me well, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying to go back to the real world, it's a shock to the system. Because you're actually technically not equipped to live in that world.
It's an interesting comparison to make, but when you hear people talk in these terms, you think of someone that had been incarcerated in jail, or you think of someone that went off to maybe the military and then returned after war to a normal life and couldn't sort of acclimatize to what it meant to just sit in silence alone. And in many respects, although those examples are quite extreme in many cases, your experience of being a football player since sort of 5 years old, being drafted into this elite academy at 13 years old, and then spending the rest of your career in sort of institutions high performance institutions where, as you say, you were distracted from having to think about being a human and you were an athlete. Your identity was an athlete. Your expectations were based on being an athlete. Your sense of validation came from being an athlete. And suddenly, boom.
It's over. Look, actors often go into depression or problem when they go into a character for a movie. Because at one point they don't know who they are anymore. They become that character. So when you put that cape as a player for more than 20 years, and you have to be what you have to be for people, because you might transcend them, because of what you transmit, the feeling that you have with your club and with the fans. That almost like you're like, yeah, I belong. When I had to fit in for a very long time, now I belong. When that goes, can't wear that cape anymore. And when you wear that cape, you feel different. Responsibilities, performing, losing, winning, doesn't matter, but you know the next day what you need to do in order to compete. Put the cape on. When you leave that cape, it's like you're naked. Like, oh, wait, hang on a minute. Now they see my weakness. They see my things. You see your weakness. You feel it. It's different. You know, when it's like whatever it is for you, that when you put your cape, you're like, okay, put it down. You're like, oh, I don't like that so much. So how do you deal with that? This is why, I mean, when I say you die, obviously it's strong. Understand me well with what's happening in the world at the minute. It is strong to say, but that part of me died, never come back. That can never come back. A singer can sing. You can have your concert up until I can't play anymore. I have to deal with that. And that, it's tough to deal with. It's tough to deal with because that's your medicine. You can't take it anymore. So there's another life. There's obviously, it's not the end. But you need to learn how to be at home, to connect with your missus, to connect with your kids. Because the way of connecting before was very minimal. When you think about it, you're never at home. So now you arrive at home when you stop your career, you're like a guest. Oh, that's what you do, you guys, when I used to play? Mm-hmm. It's not, understand me well. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying, people have, I understand. I'm just trying to explain what I went through, what I'm going through.
Arsene became, it seems from reading your story, a bit of a substitute father for you at one point when you moved to AS Monaco after Clairefontaine.
Yeah.
So you were 17 years old when you moved there.
Mm-hmm.
Arsene's the manager at Monaco at the time. Because this relationship you have with Arsene, at that time you go off to Monaco, I think there's a little bit of a sort of a disconnect from your father in some way. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, how do you tell your dad that he needs to step aside in order for me to have my career? It's my life. When he did everything for you at that moment, as a dad, by the way. But how do you make him understand that now I need to fly alone?
Is that a conversation? Is it?
No, it wasn't a conversation. No, it wasn't. That never happened. It just, I made him understand.
You made him understand?
Yeah. The look, making sure that he was understanding that he couldn't come anymore. By, if he's asking me for some tickets, I wasn't maybe sending them at times or stuff like that, because talking was tough.
So you indirectly
rejected him. You do. No, it's not rejecting, but it was too much at one point.
What was too much?
The pressure of pleasing him, the constant, he was always there, which was good, don't get me wrong. But it's like for everybody, you're not going to be always on top of your kids in whatever, because at the end of the day, you don't help them. I needed to make mistakes by myself.
Have you got specific memories of when you thought you played well, but he just...
Oh, so many. I mean, that one also is very famous in France. People still talk to me about it. They still, when they see me in the street, they say the name of the team that I played against. Yeah, it's a very famous one. It's a true story. We played the game. I was 15. Already then you can see if someone is kind of good or not good. We won the game 6-0. I scored the 6 goals. And on the way back, so I step out of the game, and I knew, I'm sure you the same. If I was like this, I swear, you believe me or you don't believe me, the aura of my dad, I knew, even without looking at him, if the man was happy or not.
So if you're turned around, you could feel him.
Even before, like it was that powerful.
You could just feel his energy.
I could feel it.
And he wasn't happy.
I turned and I saw it. I can tell you any posture, and I knew if he was happy or not happy or whatever. So we arrive in the car, silence. So I'm like, shall I talk? She said, I know it took. Okay. Like, so yeah, it's exactly how we were. So he goes like, you happy? So I'm like, what shall I answer? Yeah, but you shouldn't, because you missed that thing, you missed that control, you missed that cross, you missed that this, you missed that, you missed that. Then I arrive at my mom's house. I always remember he dropped me at my mom's house. I go up and I'm walking like this. My mom is like, did you lose? I said, no, we won 6-0 and I scored the 6 goals. And then she looked at me going in. Yeah, it was often like that.
Why was he doing that, in your view?
I don't know. Like I always say, you know what? I try to come to terms with it. But you need to understand something. Like, my dad never read. My dad never traveled. My dad knows only one way, his way and what is being told. And if I compare how I've been brought up to how he's been brought up, there's a world. So for him, he already, put that down. Mm. So you can't be upset with someone that tries to do his best and educate you with his tools. I don't have the same tools. My box of tools has more tools, and my kids will have more tools than me. So you can't be upset with that one. You have to come to terms with how it was. That's how it was. Now, you need to accept it, but digesting it is when it becomes tricky, because you can always accept everything, but the impact that it has on you after, it's on you to deal with that.
The values he gave you and you learned growing up until you ultimately move on to, Juventus and Arsenal, the values that made you successful in hindsight when you look back, what are those values that are transferable to any industry or any discipline that put you where you are? Because listen, people can be born with great genetics, they can be born with whatever, but that isn't enough. It's been proven time and time again that isn't enough to reach the highest of the highs and have a statue of yourself, over there in London. There's got to be a mindset, a character or values underneath there that creates that legend.
There's so many things, but that I understood, and there's you talk about also, a lot of guys that I came across in my career helped me develop something that was in me. I do believe that we all have something in. Now, are we going to develop it? It's a different ball game. As you know, my upbringing was rough, strict, but it can go both ways.
Yeah.
It can make you or break you. I decided that it was going to make me. But I had to put my dad on the side at one point. I had to put everybody on the side at one point and concentrate to the path. Now we're talking about, it's a different topic now. We're going to talk about what I became and the animal I became when I was a player. That's a different ball game. That comes with seeing Dennis Bergkamp every morning working hard. That comes with seeing all those players that want stuff working out. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, how am I going to move those guys? If you add, obviously, what my dad gave me, never be satisfied, do more. It's always what you didn't do well. Obviously I had a certain attribute. I was fast. That's the only attribute I had when I was young. I was fast. You have guys that are technical or see the game or whatever, awareness or whatever. I was just fast. So I had to work really hard. And I know people will say, oh my God, okay, that cliche sentence. No, I had to work really hard every day. My left foot was poor. Header, forget about it. And I still didn't manage to be better during my career. I got a tiny bit better, but I worked free kick. I couldn't take a free kick. Anything, repetition is key. Repetition, I always say, creates habit. So I knew I knew I wasn't as gifted as so many players, although I did everything that you're supposed to do. I went to Clairefontaine, I played on the 15 in France, on the 16, on the 17, on the 18, on the 19, on the 21, first team. So people, when they see my path, they always go like, yeah, I mean,
natural.
It was always going to be. No, not true. Not true. I always had to battle. But when you know that the hardest thing that I had to do was to please my dad, the rest was nothing for me. In brackets. Not disrespecting anything that happened in my career, but that was so easy compared to what I had to do in order to please the old man. And my young self is still waiting for that approval.
Still?
Yeah, I'm trying to connect with the little man. He said, I'm going to a different discussion now, but I'm trying to connect with the little man. But I go back to what you asked me. What did it teach me is obviously to never give up, do more. But there's something that was missing that I understood late. And I think for me, the best leader you can be, the leader or the greatest leader do have that. And I was missing that for a very long time, which in sport, because you have to play a game and you have to, you're not here to, oh, you have a problem, well, let's have a talk about it. When you play, you play. It's tough during a season, it's tough. During a game, it's tough. But vulnerability and empathy was missing. Those are the two greatest points of a leader for me. When you show vulnerability and obviously you show empathy, you can go places. You can go places because if your group knows that you're like them and they can relate, although you might be you might be hard as they will follow you. But in football, because of how it is, because it is taboo sometimes to be vulnerable, it is taboo to show emotion, the emotion, the crying, the this, the that, especially in my time in a dressing room, you couldn't say anything. It's a bit more accepted now if you say I'm not well mentally. And thank God for that, by the way. But all the above that you can imagine, for me, it was always trying to be the best version that I can be every day.
Did you think you were going to be the player you become?
No. How do you look? I just wanted to please my dad. How am I going to think that if fast forward, I'm gonna have a statue in front of the Emirates? I mean, how?
Even when you were playing at Arsenal and you were winning them golden boots and you were winning everything and the Invincibles and all of that, you were still trying to please your dad at your core.
In a way, yeah, I couldn't see it. That constant look of, to not name a movie, The Pursuit of Happiness or the pursuit of pleasing people.
I love that movie.
So it's kind of weird when I always say when your medicine is your poison, because you always chase that.
Were you happy?
I don't know. I never asked myself that question. I couldn't care less. I just couldn't care less. Like you saw it. You saw me play, so I couldn't care less. You saw me. My face was always hard. Was always, I could smile. It's funny, I always say, and this is why I always say to people, and in France, they used to have a go at me because I never used to celebrate my goals. I always used to stand in a stoic manner, way, or, always proud or rage. But people never used to see. When I used to give an assist, I always used to smile. Pleasing. Watch, assist, smile, goal, rage. It's weird, huh? But pleasing again. Giving was always smiling. You see, even now I smile. But goal, no. Goal was just like, that's what you had to do, man.
Because you're making the player that you've given the goal happy, I guess. You're giving them... It's interesting because people who grew up in environments where they had a parent or parents that they were trying to please often tend to exhibit two traits. One of them is being an empath. The term empath is like being so emotionally sensitive to how everyone's feeling in every room all the time, because that started at a young age with, constant, And then the second is people pleasing. And they always say people pleasers start with trying to please one or more of their parents. And it's funny, there's a cliche about comedians, right? Comedians, whenever I sit with a comedian, the question is always, which one of your parents was depressed? Which one of the parents were you trying to put a smile on their face? And there's this cliche that comedians are depressed. Whereas when I've interviewed comedians, they say, no. It's my dad that was depressed. And at 4, I was trying to make him smile. And it's so interesting that in your case as well, it was a very similar thing. This question though, like all of these great achievements, won the World Cup, the Invincible team, all these trophies, the height, the peak of your powers, and you can't tell me whether you were happy or not.
No, because for me, I did what I had to do.
When you went home though, when you went home after a great game, you get home. If I'm a fly on the wall in that room, do I see a man that's happy?
Yes, for a little while. And then because that's how the game is, I was talking about Gael Clichy, which is my assistant, and I, played at Man City and Arsenal with me. The other day, we were in camp with the national team, obviously being my assistant. He said to me, Thierry, do you remember what you did one day? I'm like, I don't know, man. He said, we won the league. So he won the league with us when we stayed invincible. He said to me, okay, where is the party tonight? We're going and everything. I said, I'm not going to no party tonight. He said, yeah, but everybody's going. I said, yeah, but I'm not everybody. Stayed home. He said, why? I said, we have the Euro. I'm going home. Everyone went to the party. I didn't. So understand. For me, it was like, hey, I have the Euro.
Just the next thing.
Yeah. So you tend at one point not to enjoy it while you're playing. That was my way. Was it the right way or not? I don't know, but it was mine. So Gail was like, you were crazy. I said, I don't know if I was crazy, but that's how it was. For me, I have the Euro. I need to concentrate for the Euro. So I didn't go. Which sometimes can be seen as a guy that's keep himself to himself or doesn't want to belong in the team. Well, I surely did when I was on the field. For me, that's the only thing that matters. Are you going to cover me? We don't have to be friends after that.
It goes back to what you were taught to value, though. You weren't taught to value party, celebration, happiness. You were taught to value performance on the pitch.
You have to perform. And so I said to you, when you put that cape, that's what is asked of you. Then, when I arrived towards the end of my career, I realized something that was big and something I was missing. Is I always thought that titles mattered. And yes, they do. But I always thought that that's the only thing that mattered. When it's not true. It's not true. It's how you, as I mentioned it before, is how you transcend and what you can transmit and also how you inspire people. That matters. And I never thought about it when I was playing, again, because I didn't have those tools also.
When you went off to Barcelona, an adjustment period took place and you were married at the time and then you went through a divorce. This question of love comes back into the picture. You know, if you'd grown up in that household where your parents got divorced when you were 7 or 8 years old, you know, you look back, who taught you? And then you were in academy at 13. So you get married, the marriage falls apart when you're in Barcelona. Who taught you how to be in a relationship?
Nobody.
Or to love a woman?
You know? Nobody. You deal with it. You learn. You fail. Again, you know, you mentioned it. I arrived at Barcelona. I arrived injured. I was divorcing, adapting to a new life, new language, new team, new way of playing. People don't care. I don't ask people to care, by the way, because that's how it is. But it's not easy. It was tough. It was tough I couldn't see my daughter for a little while, and people expect you to perform. So what do? You put the cape on. Put the cape on, because that's the only way. So, okay, you put the cape on, you're like, okay, and you do feel that everything goes away. It's a feeling though. It's an impression. It's a lie. But when I put that cape on, I feel like you can't see that I'm hurt. I feel like you can't see, because now people see the player. So in a weird way, you want people to know, and you want people to know how you feel, that you're not equipped right now to perform. And in the same time, you put it on because you don't want them to know. Do you understand what I mean?
100%.
It's kind of weird. You're like, you know what? Let me put the cape on, and then they will attack the player.
You want help, but you don't want to ask for help.
You do, but you don't. It's kind of weird. You want someone to go like, oh, this is what's happening to him, and you're like, thank you, but you don't want to say it.
What were the symptoms? You said the word hurt. If I was a fly on the wall in that room in Barcelona when you were alone, what was going on in your head?
Well, just imagine I like to please people, and everything everywhere was a no. I wasn't playing well. You're divorcing, so I'm feeling I'm letting my daughter down. I'm letting the fans down. I'm letting my friends down, myself down, everybody down. Just imagine how I am on wanting to please people, and it wasn't happening. So tough. Cape on, cape off. Tough. But the easiest way to deal with it was to put the cape on.
When the cape's not on, what are your thoughts saying to you at that time?
Well, you kind of, as a human being, like, did I make the right choice? And I said it, I think, at that particular moment, football wasn't really my priority. If the cape wasn't on, obviously, but even before, when the cape wasn't on, was still football. You need to rest, you need to this, you need to that. But there, it wasn't, because it's actually technically, and this is not me having a go at my dad or the relationship or anything, but I was like, when you swear that if you get married, you never get divorced, because, and you know very little about life, obviously. And I was like, I know, this is exactly what happened to me, or what's happening to me. What are you doing?
You're repeating.
Yeah, to yourself, like, you kind of like, what are you doing? This is why I say it so many times, and I will say it again, my biggest fear is not to be a good dad. And so I was in my mind, that doesn't mean, it's not because you're going to divorce, you're going to be a bad dad. But in my mind, I'm letting people down. I'm a bad dad, I'm a bad whatever. Do you understand what I mean? In my way of thinking, I'm like, and that's my biggest fear. Still now, is to because I'm learning to be a dad. Like everybody, by the way, because, that's, but, some doors I didn't have, some emotions I didn't have. I wasn't often at home, and still not often at home.